The Table, Chapter 3. Glenda, the Good Witch. Every year for my birthday parties in my teens, I had all my hippie deadhead friends over and we watched Harold and Maude, the cult movie with the Cat Stevens soundtrack. I loved watching the faces of the new attendees of my parties when the main character in the opening scene shoots himself in the face. My mom, my brother and sister were always part of this party. We are a tight-knit bunch. My stepfather was a signal maintainer for the railroad and was working 6 days home and 8 days gone. So us kids and my mother had two family situations. One when my stepdad was home, and one existence that found my mother raising 3 kids alone. Glenda, the Good Witch, was the youngest of 12 children of a Lebanese immigrant who owned a bar on East Jefferson Street in Louisville, Kentucky. The bar was very close to one of the oldest housing projects in town, and around the corner from the Louisville Outlaws motorcycle gang clubhouse. She was a Lebanese lesbian, Buddhist political activist who went to school later on in life, to become a teacher. She married my first father when she was 19. I came soon after that, and then my sister 3 years later, and then my brother right before she divorced my beer-drinking, Germantown Catholic electrician father. My mother fondly told stories of my father. I suspect he fell in love with her ethnic beauty and her dark Lebanese eyes. She described my dad as the guy who swept her off her feet and took her from the bar to their little piece of the American dream. My grandfather was a chanter at the Greek Orthodox Church. I remember sitting in the back of the bar playing with beer caps, making large pyramids with my grandma. That's about all I can remember. My father remembers the time when he went to meet the elders so he could ask Pop for my mother's hand. The old men from the church were always hanging out at Grandpa's bar, and my dad tells about eating weird food, drinking Lebanese wine, dancing, and swords. I can only imagine this Germantown Catholic boy going down to the beer joint and the ceremonial atmosphere of his third world experience. My mother told stories of the little ghosts that would hang in the back room of her home. Pop, Grandpa Melick, made feta cheese for the Lebanese community and would hang the cheese to dry in little cheesecloths on a clothesline. She told not so fond stories about working as a young girl at the Burlap Bag Company and that had been contracted to make body bags for the Vietnam War. Pop's bar was a beer joint and the family home. He sold Fall City beer, rolled oysters, and fish sandwiches. I remember Mom telling stories about mopping the bar early in the morning and then going to school smelling like fish. Except for pictures, I can't remember much of this place, but through the pictures, I have a fond thought of where I'm from. Wire-frame Coca-Cola chairs, a big Wurlitzer jukebox, a long, stout wooden bar with a big phone booth out front, Grandma Catherine, the big German, Baptist Swiss countrywoman, sitting in the back at the family table, smoking cigarettes, her Lebanese gold snakehead bracelet wrapped around her wrists. I can see my Lebanese bartender grandfather wearing an apron, a dark-skinned immigrant owning a bar and raising a large family in a town that was included and not so far removed from the Jim Crow South. He didn't teach any of his kids how to speak Arabic. My mother told me several times that he didn't want his kids treated unfairly. Hell, the civil rights movement war was raging. My grandma Catherine, his second wife, my mother didn't tell fond stories of watching her mother die of cancer. She did explain to me why she stopped doing her activist work when she got a job teaching. There's a scene in the Harold and Maude movie when Harold asks Maude about an umbrella that was hanging above a big cabinet filled with musical instruments in a rail car home. Maude tells Harold that the umbrella was something of a remembrance of an old time when she used to frequent political rallies. The umbrella was used as a defense against thugs and police. My mom said that she, like Maude in the movie, didn't feel a need after college to fight the powers that be. She explained that she stopped doing her activist work publicly and continued her activist work quietly with her school kids. Back when she did, us kids were always in tow. I grew up with her activist friends organizing around our kitchen table and with her newfound lesbian life that would become her divorce from her second beer drinking, pot smoking, pull shooting Germantown railroad man. We sang the theme song from Harold and Maude at my mother's wake. Not to mention we read Joe Hill's last will. So, I guess I am a red bed diaper baby, I guess. I'm a city boy, except I grew up across the street from the 46-acre park that is named George Rogers Clark Park. It was the Clark family home until the early 1900s. I spent lots of time reading books next to a large tree that grew next to where the Clark family situated their spring house. The spring house is gone, but water still gathers in pools close to the majestic cypress tree. The tree is a massive, 150-year-old grandfather of a tree. It was at this tree, on the other side of Mania, that I collapsed. In an early morning fog, I woke up exhausted and confused. This event, my near-death vision, my knowing that something was way too much to deal with, somewhat spookily, I knew I was way too far out or possibly getting somewhere. I was depressed, mentally exhausted, and scared.